I'm Dr. Fred Ogola. I'm a professor of strategy and decision making at Strathmore Business School. In this week, we have, first of all, that Nairobi has a new governor in town. And what he has done, he has changed those who collect revenue, kicked out KRA, and bring in new system of collection of taxes. It is not clear, but we just know it's a new system. Of course, this looks good or bad. Some people believe that it will a way to milk money from Nairobians. We don't know where it's going because KRA could have taken the money in the right direction, but that's a story for another day. The second thing that we see this week is that institutional investors have bought shares from Safaricom worth 9.5 billion Kenya shillings, and that means that it has taken advantage of the fact that Kenyan retail investors have sold their shares and also foreigners exited their money from Nairobi Stock Exchange. This is a reverse of what the intention of issuing the initial public offer IPO by Safaricom was meant to bring in retail investors into the company so that at least Kenya can buy stake in their own company. The third thing is that Kenyans are now battling with sharpest cost of living ever. In fact, not ever, but we see a trend because now inflation has reached something to do with 8.5%. Last month, inflation was 8.2%. Now it is 8.5%. But as Kenyans are making noise, let me give you that this thing actually is not just related to the global economic challenges which are happening in the world, but has a relationship with elections. Why? Because in this same month of June 2017, inflation was actually 9.21%, which means that we haven't seen the worst of it. And the last thing which actually is catchy in the news is that Treasury has begun the implementation of the budget, 2023 budget, under President Uhuru's policy, because there's a standoff. Treasury will not be waiting for Supreme Court to make a decision because the scenarios in these elections are too many. That is not easy for us to know when we should actually have the new president. So Treasury does not want to wait and then ensure that the budget. So they have ordered all the ministries, public permanent secretaries and the rest to start preparing policies and budgets that will be implemented for the 2023 financial year. So this forms part of our main topic today on Supreme Court scenarios. So let's look at scenarios. In this same segment, I said before that election will begin on 9th of August. Not that we shall have election on 9th of August, it will begin. Now, it could be that we could have a president being sworn in on 13th of September. It could be that this year we shall go without the president until next year. President Uhuru can be president for the next 6 months. He can be a president for 1 year or even 2 years. No one knows, and I want to bring in some scenarios here. So the first scenario, a Supreme Court, because Raila contested the declaration by IBC that Ruto has been the elected president. So one scenario is IBC can uphold the election of the president-elect. Of course, this has got scenarios on the perception of people. If the perception will be that it was unfair decision by the Supreme Court because it is live, everything is open there, these can create issues, but we want to look at it positively. Nevertheless, we know very well that there's some calmness, but there's what we call calmness, but doesn't mean that actually people are happy. We say peace is not absence of war. So, but we hope for the best. The second scenario is that Supreme Court can go for rectification of the arithmetic error, which has been noted, and that can push for a rerun, stating that there is no clear winner, because with the numbers we saw in Okia Mutata's case shows that none of the candidates met the 50% plus one vote. And if that is the case, that means that we shall have a rerun, and after a rerun, it does not matter now the 51%. Anybody who just wins will be declared the president, so that can be more predictable. And that means that after 60 days from Monday or Tuesday, when we get the results, we can get a new president-elect, and we can go on to have a swearing in so we can get a president this year. The third scenario is that they can declare that the election was flawed and did not comply with the constitution, and therefore it does not meet the test of credible, transparent, and verifiable election, and that can call for what is called fresh elections. Now, remember, fresh elections is different from a rerun. With fresh elections, depending on which law you come, President Uhuru Kenyatta can get back his what we call executive powers, and he is currently under what is called temporary incumbency. He can get full incumbency to start executing other things, including looking at the appointments which need to be done at the IBC situation. Fresh elections will take longer. It can go into many questions, but if he does that while not saying that IBC as constituted is incapable of doing another election, it means we shall go back to election with Chebukati and his team still the one conducting the election. Now the question is, if the referee has been seen to be unfair, if you look at what Azimio claims are anything to go by, we also have a divided commission where we have 3 commissioners with the IBC side of Chebukati, Cherara, the deputy chair or vice chair, with 4 commissioners. How will these people to work together? Is it not the Supreme Court will be saying that a team divided can still win a match? And for me, this will be a serious challenge, but nevertheless, that's a possible scenario, so we don't rule it out. The fourth scenario is that Supreme Court can declare that elections were flawedly run by incompetent commission, which did not comply with the constitution, led by the chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, and therefore declare that the IBC as constituted cannot oversee a fresh election. In any of the fresh elections, anyone can still apply to be president, which means we can have more than 4 candidates running. So those who are out there who are put out of the list, like Mwangi Wairia, all those guys who could not meet the threshold, they can still apply and run for president. Hopefully they'll meet the requirements this time, and this may bring another situation altogether. And if at all those people are able to pick votes from the 2 candidates, we can still have a runoff after the fresh elections. And then also it's possible after the fresh elections, someone can go to Supreme Court, then again there'll be a runoff, which means that Kenyans' life is that we may not actually be able to see a president for maybe 2 years, 1 year, who knows? It's a very complex scenario. But let me tell you what, according to me, the decision which is waited for next week is interesting in this way. Remember, let me put my heart out there by saying that Supreme Court, it is not a legal court only. Supreme Court is also a political court. So the dilemma facing Supreme Court is not a legal dilemma only, it's also a political dilemma. What do I mean by that? When Supreme Court is meeting, they'll be looking at perception of people. Perception is very important, public perception. Of course, they'll say they look at the law, but nevertheless, they look at the implications of the decision they're going to make. So why do I mean by this? One of the candidates seeking for prayers, petitioner, Raila Amolo Odinga, is the father of the Constitution. You may agree or disagree, but I think I'm right on this one. Because the reforms we are seeing now, the very reforms that has created Supreme Court, he has championed them through the 2010 Constitution when they work with Kibaki. And therefore, the father of the Constitution is standing in court by saying, no, what? I lost, but I lost unfairly. I'm looking for justice through the very court that I fought to create. So that's one dilemma. Now, will the Supreme Court grant his prayers in case they find that his prayers is justifiable? Then that is following justice. That is very straightforward. Another part is that we have William Ruto, whom when Raila was fighting for reforms, he was with Moi, Youth for Kanu 92. These are facts. In God we trust, the rest bring data. So he was on the other side of the coalition. He opposed the current constitution. He even opposed the BBI, meaning that he's not been very reform-minded. Should the Supreme Court give him his prayers if he won flawedly, because he's been known for manipulation? Look at the accusation against him. He was manipulating the IBC. If those allegations anything to go by, then if Supreme Court offers him his prayers to uphold his election, then it is like Kenya will be going back 20 years back because of the fact that he's not been a champion of reforms. He may want to even manipulate the very Supreme Court, because after manipulating the referee, you can actually try to manipulate the super referee. If you can manipulate the referee in football, you may even try to manipulate the VAR so that they can blow that actually you had a penalty and then you can score. If that happens and it's unfair, we are going back. But at the same time, why this dilemma is important, should Supreme Court find out that Raila has no case against President-elect Ruto, but even if he's the father of the Constitution, it will be unfair for Supreme Court to nullify the election of William Ruto, because the very justice Raila Odinga has been fighting for would have been done against William Ruto. So no matter how you perceive him, his demeanor before the court, still justice needs to prevail. For me, this is a very big dilemma. And on this matter, we can only put God to Supreme Court and pray for them that they get the political will and the legal justification to be able to make the ruling. And this ruling must be very Solomonic. Thank you.